All right, it is 6 o'clock. We were going to call the meeting to order at this time. And we'll first take a roll call. Frank Gresham. Here. Veronica Ranieri.
Here.
Eric Belk. Here. Dean Jacks. Here. Vicky Cook.
Here.
All are present. We have a quorum and the meeting has begun. The first thing on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I have one slight change to make here. We're going to move the open board discussion up to number 4. So that would be good. And then discussion with the Samuels Library Incorporated Board of Trustees, if any, will take place after that. I'll interrupt just for a second. Mr. Moten, are you here on behalf of the Board of Trustees? Or are you here just as an observer?
Just a private citizen.
Pardon?
I'm a private citizen.
Yes, I know. But you're also a member of the Board of Trustees. So I want to know, are you here for them?
I'm not here to interact with people without that here.
Okay. So the agenda as amended, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is approved. Next up is the approval of the minutes from the February 19 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Are there any amendments, changes, deletions to be made to the meeting minutes?
No.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The minutes from the February 19, 2025 meeting are approved. Next up is open board discussion. And I believe, Ms. Cook, that you wanted to lead this off with a discussion of some of the events that took place last night with the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Yes. So yesterday evening was the Samuels Library Inc.'s opportunity to present their fiscal year 26 budget. It's a budget here, and now all of the partner agencies go through, and the county departments also go through the same process, as well as all our constitutional offices as well. So anyway, we went ahead and went through their funding document. I mean, I think we looked at all of these documents last week, 2 weeks ago. So we went through that. I asked some questions about their labor that they answered, and we had a discussion about the maintenance costs again, and I think I had asked this board to kind of, going forward, how we can put that to bed, if you will, of if we're paying maintenance costs or not, and we got a lease, do we amend the lease? I mean, I don't know what's the right thing, and that's the purpose of our board, is to help, sort through this and make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors.
Very good.
So the other thing I was asking that I thought was needed for us as a board, the library board, and to be able to perform our financial duties as given by the Board of Supervisors and by the ordinance that we have, was the what they called the cash layouts. And of course, we looked at this at our last meeting, and that's where they segregated the costs to tax dollars. So, the document that they gave us was for fiscal year 24. So I wish I had a copy here, but it's online. If anybody wants to look at it, go to the website, where we have all our packages, and you'll see this report. But any event, it was only for fiscal year 24, which is closed. We're in fiscal year 25, and then we were looking for at fiscal year 26. So in order for us to be good stewards over the tax dollars of the $1,024,000, that we had obligated to 25, I would like to see the same layout. So where are the tax dollars being used at the library? And then for fiscal year 26, they've asked for about 16.5% more funding, and we should be able to see the same type of data. So I asked them to provide that, and they agreed that they were going to update the report and give it to the Board of Supervisors. And once we get that, of course, I will bring it to the board.
Will they be providing that to the library ward?
Most likely not, because, from other prior discussions that they are going to respond to the Board of Supervisors, and then basically that's the funding agreement, and I can understand that their position. But whatever data that they give us, I will bring it to the library board. But just to summarize everything, Mr. Jameson did say last night, that's the library board has been appointed by the Board of Supervisors to be the stewards of tax dollars, of how it's being allocated, budgeted, measured for performance going forward, and so I think our first major task is to look at fiscal year 26 budget and, ask the appropriate questions, to the library, if they want to respond or not, so we can make our recommendations before the Board of Supervisors approve the budget. And I think that should be about, April timeframe or something. So, but anyway, they also handed out this, it's a statement from their financial audit. And I know everyone here on the board is familiar with it. And it goes back to fiscal year, let's say, back to 2020. So they gave us, 4 years here or so of page one, it's page 4, and it's a statement of activities. And what it does, it puts out, it lists the revenues. And this is their financial report that they have their auditor come in and, document everything. So you have the revenues, and then they break down the expenses, and then at the end you see change in the assets. So I guess, and I'll be honest with you, I think they just wanted to show their accountability, I guess. I really don't know how. I know how we use it, But anyway, so I gave everyone a copy since it was a supplement document that was not part of the package that was on the website, that everyone can view. So I gave everyone a copy. But
You talking about on our website?
no, on the Warren County's website.
Right. They're more in Canada.
Right. Yeah, but you won't find this here.
Right. No, but it's on the Samuels Library.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to go through
Right, yeah.
that big package, But so anyway, so an interesting, when I was going through this is, they do show change your net assets, some, take a look and, and come to your own conclusion to what that's saying. But so other than that, that's what was reported. And I just wanted to, I know I saw some of the members in the audience, and I appreciate your support last night. And that's all I have to say. And if you have any questions for me or, no.
I know that Dr. Jameson last night stated that he would not be considering any type of budget until it came to him from the library board.
Exactly. And that's our charter. It's part of our charter. Yes.
It seems to me sometimes that there's a belief that we're looking at their current funding agreement with respect to the here and now, when in fact we're not looking at the current funding agreement. We're looking at what's going to be the next budget funding agreement. And so I'm not. It's unusual that we haven't had a conversation.
Rely on the
with
prior funding agreement
Yeah.
to say we can't look.
So we're seeing what they're putting out to the Board of Supervisors, which is great, but they really need to have that conversation with us, since we are the duly elected board, or not elected board, but we're the appointed board by the Board of Supervisors to do that. So I'm curious as to why that's not happening at this point. I know that you've had multiple emails that you've requested their attendance and have asked for them to show up, but for multiple reasons, that's not happening.
Correct.
And I don't know if it's because they think that we're not, if they think we're trying to talk about this current funding arrangement, which is not the case. Correct. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a clarity that needs to be put out there.
I agree.
This current funding agreement is being funded. Is that correct?
Yes, the current funding agreement is ratified And they right now the board has approved their fiscal year 25 budget that they will be funded, of course, to the end of the fiscal year.
Which is June 30th.
June 30th. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, it's hard for us to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors if we're not having conversations with the Board of Trustees or the library themselves on this matter.
So in speaking on behalf of the board, all of us have these documents. Mine are covered with my own notes, questions that I have. We're not going to just cast our questions into the air for nobody to answer. So it's necessary that the Board of Trustees come for us to answer our questions. And thus far, they've declined to do so. So again, we have a ton of questions to ask. And maybe it's a situation where there are multiple meetings. Maybe we have to have some sit down, maybe even some closed meetings with the Board of Trustees. But those things have to go forward. And as Dean mentioned, we're asking about their future funding. We're not asking about the current library funding agreement or anything under that. So there's no reason to rely upon that to say that you're not going to talk to us about your future funding. So any other questions for Vicky or any observations about the meeting last night?
Nope.
Did you have?
Good.
Hit the button.
Oh,
I have to keep jiggling this to keep that alive.
That or it's gonna go.
Right. So no, Dean, you had something you wanted to discuss as well.
well, just not discuss, but I mean, I just think the last time we had a conversation, we were talking about the term governance and how it's being used. And so apparently I saw in an article that there's still some question about that. So I went ahead and prepared a statement that I'll go ahead and just read from my board here, that hopefully this will clear up anything. If there's still any questions, I'm not sure how we're going to answer them, because what this says and has been drafted in Chapter 7 of the Warren County Code, in our bylaws, and in the Code of Virginia statute is what we're operating under. It's that simple. So I'll go ahead and read my comments here. It's there seems to be continued misunderstanding surrounding the use of the term governance when it comes to the standing authority of the Warren County Library Board as vested by the Warren County Board of Supervisors and Chapter 7 of the Warren County Code. For clarification, Chapter 7 of the Warren County Code specifically states under Chapter 7, Section 7.3, Powers and Duties, that's the heading of that section, that the Library Board may adopt bylaws, rules, and regulations for their guidance and for the government of a free public library system. That's a key phrase there. As may be expedient. Additionally, this section provides that the Library Board shall have control of the expenditures of all the monies credited to the library by the Board of Supervisors, and shall have all the powers set forth in the Code of Virginia, Title 42, TAC 1, Chapter 2. This clearly states that the Library Board has the responsibility of working with any vendor, including Samuel's Library, Inc., regarding budgeting, policies, and procedures for library operations in Warren County. The board recognizes that Samuel's Library, Inc. is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization that accepts Warren County taxpayer dollars to provide free public library services in Warren County. And the board has no role in the management of the 501c3 organization itself, only in setting budget, policy, procedures, and oversight of the free public library system. Hopefully that clears everything up. There's a separate entities there, and we're under the free public library system is what we're doing in terms of funding, policy, all that kind of good stuff. So that's all I had for that. And given that is why earlier I noted I'm curious as to why the Board of Trustees is not communicating with us. It's Thursday. It's in the code. So it's a shame, because we just want to move this process forward and make sure that our library services are continuing to get provided to our community. There's plenty of people that love that library, and we want to keep it moving. So,
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Dean? No? Okay. Does anyone during this open board discussion have any other comments or commentary they wish to offer? Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next, which was purported to be or supposed to be the discussion with Samuel's Library Inc. Board of Trustees. So, as we noted in our first meeting and reiterated at our second meeting, it is our express intent and desire that everything this board does is totally transparent and open to scrutiny. It's not something that's nice to have. It's an absolute necessity. Everyone on this board agrees. We meant what we said. So let's talk a little bit about transparency now. As you know, I've asked Melody Hotek in her official role as president of the Board of Trustees to appear at our meeting last week to respond to questions to help this board better understand her role, as well as the financials, policies, and procedures of Samuel's Library, Inc. and the Board of Trustees. I informed her that if she couldn't make it for some reason, she could feel free to send others in her place, provided they had authority to speak for the Board of Trustees. If you were here earlier, you know I asked Mr. Moten, who's present today, if he had authority to speak for the Board of Trustees, and he's here as a private citizen rather than as a member of the Board of Trustees. So he will not have authority to speak for them. I offered to her to move the meeting or the time to accommodate her schedule. She declined to take me up on the offer to speak publicly about our concerns. She declined to send any others to speak for the Board of Trustees as well. I again offered to change the date or the time to accommodate her schedule, but apparently everyone was too busy to come meet with us. So I again invited Ms. Hotek to this meeting. I informed her that she could bring whoever she wanted to this meeting to respond to questions, and she could have anyone answer any question within their purview. She again declined to appear. Her email, as you're aware, she is released as part of a press release. And you can see there that she says that she wishes to adhere to the library funding agreement the Board of Trustees has recommended. She adhere to the library funding agreement. As Dean and I pointed out, we're not talking about the library funding agreement as far as what we need from the Board of Trustees. Well, let's move on. She says the library is committed to transparency and maintains a robust website. We're going to be visiting that in a minute, where you can find up-to-date information, including policies, financial reports, and trustee meeting records. We're going to be going into that in a minute. I said this is kind of confusing to us because at the Q&A that was just held last Saturday, that she said the Board of Supervisors has the right to create the library board. The library board is a creature of statute. It is the law, so there's no excuse for her and for the Board of Trustees not to present her budget to us and answer our inquiries in a public forum. All the information we will discuss tonight comes from their robust website and up-to-date information that they have there, together with information that was pulled from archives. At our last meeting, we told Ms. Hotek and the Board of Trustees what our questions were. In a broad sense, she knew what we would be asking. We already aired dozens of unanswered questions, but since Samuel Library Inc.'s Board of Trustees has declined to cooperate with us, there's no opportunity for me to meet with Ms. Hotek even in private either. I had not originally planned to reveal the information I'm going to be revealing tonight. I plan on having a discussion with Ms. Hotek to discuss these developments, we'll call them, and to see if she could explain the situation to me. Perhaps it's not what it looks like. Perhaps it is. Either way, these developments lead me to conclude that they are exactly what they look like, and I have no choice but to shine a light on a very disturbing development. A very disturbing development. Let's get one thing out of the way. Samuel's Library, Inc. is not the library. It's a vendor formed in 1977 to operate the library on behalf of Warren County. Samuel's Library Incorporated added Samuel's Library and Samuel's Public Library as fictitious business names in July of 2024. They existed for nearly 50 years without those fictitious business names. They suddenly decided to add them. So the relationship between the county and Samuel's Library Incorporated is not a partnership. It's certainly a relationship that must be built on trust and mutual respect. What this board has seen is that the Board of Trustees has refused to work with this board, which one may assume is because they don't want anyone to look below the surface of what they're reporting to the Board of Supervisors. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. The Board of Trustees is working to undermine the very existence of this library. If you're worried, if you're genuinely worried about the library being shut down, then you look no further than Samuel's Library Incorporated. Let's look into that. Because Samuel's Library Incorporated is a nonprofit, the IRS has very specific requirements for the distribution of assets in the event that that nonprofit ceases to do business. The Articles of Incorporation for every 501c3 contains what is known as a dissolution clause. The IRS rules essentially require the assets upon dissolution to be distributed to a state or local government or to a qualified charity or to the federal government. It's a nonprofit. Those have to stay within that nonprofit realm. Now, let me go to our next slide. Like folks to take a look at this. This I took from the March 11, 2013 SLI Articles of Incorporation. These are the Articles of Incorporation that had been in existence for nearly the last 50 years. Now, you will note there that they formed many years ago to manage a free library system in this county for the express benefit of the citizens of Warren County. They were incorporated as a nonprofit charity organized for that specific purpose. Now, like all 501c3s, it had dissolution clauses right there. You won't be able to find this one. It's good to take a picture of it because you won't find this on the website now. Unless you go back through a bunch of different documents, you may be able to find it. At the time when Samuel's Library began operating the library all the way up until December 17 of 2024, the organization's dissolution clause read as follows. They would distribute all library assets exclusively for library purposes to the county of Warren, Virginia. And repeat that. Upon dissolution, they would distribute all library assets exclusively for library purposes to the county of Warren, Virginia. All of that changed on December 17th of 2024. Folks will recognize this as the Samuel Library Inc.'s Board of Trustees. They maintain a page on the Samuel's Public Library site. You're probably all familiar with it. You'll note that there are meetings scheduled there for March 10th of 2025, January 13th, December 7th of 24, December 4th of 2024, among many others. What you won't find is a meeting scheduled on December 17th of 2024. I also checked, folks here may be familiar with the Wayback Machine. It's on archive.org. You can actually go back and see what a web page said on a specific date. So I even went back to December 15th of 2024, 2 days before this mystery meeting took place. And this is basically what it doesn't have the CSS, it's just showing the HTML and the pictures. But this is essentially what it had. What it had was no meeting scheduled for December 17th. So what happened is that I was going through, and everyone here has been very helpful. Your comments on Facebook telling me, oh, it's all the information is right on the website. Go look on the website. You'll find it. I found it. So going to the January 13th of 2025 packet, there's a single page in there. It says a special meeting. You see that? They had a special meeting. I stumbled across this, just happened to be going through all of that information. Now, you may not know this, but Samuel's Library and their bylaws, Samuel's Library Incorporated in their bylaws, gave themselves the right to call a special meeting. Yeah. That's given, notice that they given to each trustee at his or her address as shown in your records of the library. Their attendance constitutes waiver of notice. If they don't attend, it doesn't constitute waiver of notice. And the notice has to contain the place, time, date, and purpose of the special meeting. What's missing? What's missing? Public notice. There's no public notice whatsoever for this meeting on December 17th. Let's go back to that. You'll note that the only people there were members of the Board of Trustees and Senior of Library Management. Those were the ones who were present. No one from the press was there to report on it. No one from the public was there because they weren't invited. No one from the Board of Supervisors was there because they didn't receive an invitation either. I've heard separately from them they didn't get an invitation. Now, let's see what they discussed at this special meeting, this secret meeting they have. So the first thing they do is to go into a closed session. Okay. Still no notice for this meeting. They're open meeting, then they go into a closed session. Then they talk about litigation. I don't care what they said about litigation. What I do care about is they came out of closed session shortly thereafter. What did they do next? What they did next, and I'll draw your attention to that second paragraph. Ms. Gerard moved that the board approve the changes to the articles of incorporation, selecting a new registered agent and amending the paragraph on dissolution of assets. Mr. Moten, who's here tonight, seconded it, and the vote passed unanimously. Then the Board of Trustees did a very strange thing. So after they moved to pass this, they filed it with the state in January. There is no record of what took place in that meeting. Mr. Moten, would you care to elaborate on what took place in the open part of that meeting? Would you care to elaborate on what took place during the open part of the meeting?
I'm here as a private citizen tonight.
Okay, Mr. Moten declines to respond to that.
Leave him alone. You should.
And so, I'm sorry. It's not open for public comment.
I mean, I shouldn't do that.
Ma'am, you'll be asked to leave if you keep speaking up. There's no record of the meeting having been scheduled on the Board of Trustees site, which is the site where the Board of Trustees posts its meeting. When I read that, red flags immediately went up. My radar went on. First, I checked the website. As you saw, there's no mention of the meeting, closed or open. There's a reservation of a room, but it says nothing. It says nothing other than the room was reserved. No agenda, no stated reason for the meeting, nothing was published. This is a clear violation of Virginia's open meeting requirements. It is a clear violation of FOIA. Next, I found not a single reference to this proposed change before or after the meeting in any documentation but for these meeting minutes. No record of the discussion that took place. There's nothing else stated in the minutes. No reason was stated for this change. It was a secret meeting with a secret agenda and action taken in secret. Now, I know you're smirking, but this is important. Why is this concerning? First, you will recall that the library's funding is premised upon certain conditions in the library funding agreement, which Samuel's Library, Inc. consistently calls an MOA, but it's a library funding agreement. Let's take a look at what the library funding agreement says. Part 3, all library board meetings shall be open to the public as required under FOIA. There should be an opportunity for the public to present comments or information to the board regarding any item that is or is not on the agenda for that meeting. The library agrees that it's a public body for the purposes of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and that it shall comply with the act. None of those things were done here. It's a complete violation. Hear that. By holding and taking action of a so-called special meeting, the secret meeting, it's clear that Samuel's Library is in material breach of the library funding agreement. Samuel's Library, Inc. stated that they would be made open. They violated that. They stated that they would receive information from the public. They violated that. They stated that they were a public body. They admitted that they were a public body and subject to this. They violated every contingency in this section. So let's go back now. Well, why is this important? Let's go back and look at those articles of incorporation again. So before that meeting took place, all library assets were to be upon dissolution, would be distributed to the County of Warren for the purposes of a library. So they highlight that. Essentially, Samuel's Library, Inc. is holding these assets for the benefit of the citizens of Warren County, for the taxpayers who have paid over $26 million to Samuel's Library, Inc. over the years. And if at any time it ceased to operate, the agreement was Samuel's Library Inc. says, I'm going to give these back to you, Warren County. That's what that stands for. Now, this is hard. I didn't want to talk about this tonight. I really didn't, but I have to. Let's look at what they said in December 17th. This is the change that was made. Rather than give the assets back to Warren County to the purposes of the public library, they decided that they would distribute all library assets to such organizations organized and operated exclusively for charitable or educational purposes as shall at that time qualify as an exempt organization or organization under Section 501c3. Is Warren County a 501c3? No. They are not. So let's take a close look at this. Samuel's Library is saying that if it decides at any point in time that it is going to cease doing business, they will no longer be, they can't even do it. They can't even give it back to Warren County. They're going to have to give it to a nonprofit anywhere in the country, not even in Warren County, anywhere in the country for any purpose. Do you think this is about the library? Do you really think this is about the library and maintaining the library? So let's take a look at those side by side. Again, when we look at this, all library assets exclusively for library purpose of the County of Warren. The change to such organizations organized and operate exclusively for charitable or educational purposes. Now, when Warren County entered into this relationship with Samuel's Library Inc. to manage the library, it did so with the understanding under the then existing dissolution clause that in the event Samuel's Library Incorporated ceased doing business, its assets would be distributed through the County of Warren for the exclusive purpose of operating a public library. Samuel's Library has decided that if it can't operate the public library, it can give the assets to anyone, anywhere in the country. This is what we will call in the corporate world a poison pill. They want to make it impossible for them to ever have anyone else run the library but them. Anywhere in the country, they can give it. Anywhere, but they can't give it to Warren County. They cannot give it to the citizens who paid for it. And you're smirking and laughing back there. But this is Samuel's Library Incorporated taking your money and giving it to somebody else.
Don't address this.
I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you a question.
Speak back, please.
I'm not asking you a question now.
Okay.
They met in secret to take this away from the taxpayers of Warren County. That has so far given somewhere close to $27 million to this organization. Again, let's take a look at this chart. Take a look at them side by side. Prior to December 17th, they give it to the County of Warren, Virginia. After December 17th, they give it to anybody. Prior to December 17th, exclusively for library purposes. Very key to our discussion. After December 17th, exclusively for charitable or educational purposes. This is not about the library. This is not about the library. This is all about self-preservation of Samuel's Library Incorporated at the expense of the citizens of Warren County. The truth will out. The truth will out. And the truth is that Samuel's Library seems intent on one thing and one thing only, that if it can't run the library in Warren County, then nobody can. And you're nodding. You agree with that, I assume. So this library board was appointed for this purpose, to stop the secrecy, to delve into the financials, to evaluate the policies, and to preserve the free public library system for the citizens of Warren County and for the enjoyment of all of its citizens as well. While I expected pushback, since that's what Samuel's Library Inc. has done to the Board of Supervisors for years, I did not expect this level of deception. In light of these findings, I cannot reach the determination that Samuel's Library Incorporated is a trustworthy vendor. And unless Samuel's Library Inc. reverses this unprincipled attempt at placing its own interests above that of the citizens of this county, this frankly absurd attempt at preserving itself rather than preserving the library system here in Warren County, I just don't see any opportunity. I see no road forward that would alter that. Now, Samuel Library Inc.'s secretive actions have placed a huge burden on our ability to have the necessary trust in their ability to continue to serve the citizens of this county. Despite these actions taken by Samuel Library Inc.'s Board of Trustees, we can acknowledge people can and do make mistakes, grievous errors in judgment on occasion. We understand that. Samuel's Library Incorporated will be given the opportunity to reverse these errors and undertake the effort to rebuild the trust that is necessary for us to continue a business relationship with them. We'll address those issues with Samuel Library Inc.'s Board of Trustees once they move beyond their outright refusal to meet with us in this public forum. I tell you, we're willing to work with them, and we will work with them as professionals. We can put all this behind them, but they have to work to rebuild that trust. Again, I really do wish I didn't have to air all this in public, but the Board of Trustees' continual refusal to meet with us required that I act. We intend to pursue our mission with vigor and transparency. I will therefore make a series of motions to the library board at this time in light of Samuel Library Inc.'s actions to date, with the understanding that these are not binding on the Board of Supervisors, and it is expected that the Board of Supervisors will take whatever actions they conclude are in the best interests of and most beneficial to the citizens of Warren County. Now, ready? I'm about to make a series of motions. Okay. Motion 1. I move that Warren County Library Board find that Samuel's Library Incorporated is in breach of the library funding agreement, Section 6, subsection 3, which provides all library board meetings shall be open to the public as required by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and as outlined in the library's bylaws. I make this motion due to Samuel Library Inc.'s holding a meeting in secret without prior notice to the public, and that it took improper action in secret in direct violation of Virginia's open meeting laws. Do I have a second?
I second motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second motion. I move that the Warren County Library Board recommend to the Warren County Board of Supervisors that it exercises its right to non-renew the October 3, 2023 library funding agreement between Warren County and Samuel's Library Incorporated as set forth in Section 3 entitled Term. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. A third motion is a recommendation for a month-to-month agreement. I move that the Warren County Library Board recommend to the Warren County Board of Supervisors that, if in the opinion of the Board of Supervisors it is beneficial to the citizens of Warren County, it consider entering into a month-to-month contract with Samuel's Library Incorporated to continue to receive county funds to operate Samuel's Public Library, pending either 1, the completion of a competitive bid process, 2, receipt and acceptance of competing bids to operate the library, or 3, that due consideration be given to operating the library as part of the county's government structure.
So for discussion before seconding the motion, clarification, this is once the current funding agreement is over, because this current funding agreement is fully funded. So month to month would begin July 1st, should the Board of Supervisors choose to opt out as is their option.
But I don't want to tie the hands of the Board of Supervisors on this. If they decide that the breach of the contract of the library funding agreement is material enough that it ends that agreement, if that's a position they want to take, I don't want to prevent them from doing that. And that they could enter that contract with negotiations with them.
Understanding that from the third motion, in terms of clarification,
Right.
the month to month would start on the new fiscal year. Is it?
I'm saying not necessarily. If the Board of Supervisors decide they want to start May 1 with a month-to-month and avoid.
They decide that it was a breach of agreement and they go ahead and end the contract at that point.
Correct.
Understood. Okay.
Okay, so the Board of Supervisors leaving it open for them, whatever they
Understood.
do.
Yep. Okay. I'll second the motion then.
Any further discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next 4, and this is important. I move that the Warren County Library Board recommend that Samuel's Library Incorporated shall have the right to compete for the bid to operate Samuel's Public Library, provided that they reverse the improper and unlawful decision to alter their articles of incorporation after the fact, which improperly and inappropriately changed the nature of the agreement between Warren County and Samuel's Library Incorporated by changing the dissolution clause to prevent the library assets from being returned to Warren County upon dissolution of Samuel's Library, Inc., as has been the case for nearly 50 years.
Right. This is a motion.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Finally, the last motion. I move that the Warren County Library Board recommend that the Warren County Board of Supervisors publicly announce that it is accepting competitive bids, which may be in the form of a request for proposal or a broad request for bids at large, totally up to the Board of Supervisors, from external vendors to operate Samuel's Public Library.
Second motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Now, I want to emphasize once again that we understand mistakes could be made. This could have been in the heat of the moment. We're going to hold a meeting. We're going to go ahead and make it so that it's impossible for Warren County to get rid of us. Whatever the decision was behind that, it was a very poor decision to move forward with that. If this can be corrected, if this can be rectified, then we are absolutely more than willing to have discussions with Samuel's Library, Inc. to continue as a vendor of library services in Warren County. Otherwise, it's going to move to the competitive bid process if the Board of Supervisors feels that's the right way to go. But again, we're willing to have those discussions with them, every single one of us. Okay, that ends my presentation for this purpose.
Go back to the agenda. Where we at? Oh, shoot all the way back to the agenda.
So the next item is new.
Actually, just put that last slide up there for emphasis.
Yeah. So the next item, we're going to move on to new business, if any. And go ahead.
I don't think we have any new business at this
Well,
point. Do
Do we have any new business?
we? Sure.
we as a board, we still need to continue to look at the budget request for fiscal year 26.
Michelle.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
I don't know how the board wants to structure that, and we could talk about it next meeting. But the budget process where the Board of Supervisors will be approving the budget probably sometime in April, which the Samuel's Library's funding is going to be part of that. So we need to, as a board, to at least make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors of our assessment of their fiscal year budget request.
So providing them options. Well,
Exactly, options,
and that's fine. I mean, I think going with option, the motion about opting out, is we can do that, but the current funding agreement, in my opinion, and based on not just this, but based on the way it's written, our recommendation should be they opt out, and then so we can draft one that's in line with that, concurrent with the funding. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't work the funding simultaneously. We
Right.
should, but at the end of the day, this current funding agreement should be written in a different way than it's currently written.
So we need to get these motions to the Board of Supervisors so they can,
And we continue working on their funding. Yeah.
because all of this is all recommendations to the board, and so it's going to be up to the Board of Supervisors what our path is going to be.
So
I understand that makes sense.
and we will continue to meet. I will continue to invite the Board of Trustees to appear before us and answer our questions about the finances, about the policies, and about the procedures. If they choose not to come, then the way forward is pretty narrow.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Any other new business? then I will certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.